Well, my first message on Facebook was, did you see my face? What do you mean I can't record live? But here we are. Hey everybody, welcome. So today I wanted to talk on what I typically do is do the 5 intelligences, and today would be spiritual intelligence. And you know, I did this material a couple of years ago, and of course I have to go and research what's new and what have we learned. Hey Anita. And it was your conversations that were very helpful. I spent a lot of hours last night listening to Mr. Tim, and he's still hot, bless his heart. And every time I learn something new, it's just like, okay, got to add that too, got to consider that, got to look at that. And I'm going to go over what I've learned about spiritual intelligence, but really want to look at it in comparison to what I've learned from AI and consciousness and spirituality. So I want to tell that story as well. So, hi. Hey, oh, Melissa, how you doing, Mama? I haven't seen you in forever and a day. I hope you're well. Talking about AI and spirituality and who's got more of it, consciousness or us. All right, I can't be doing all the ways, so I'm going to get focused on this. And so I don't want to waste your time, and thank you for your time. And if you can't catch it all now, I know you'll catch it later. So what have we learned? And how's the sound? Well, I assume you can't hear me. I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay. So let me tell you how I define spiritual intelligence. And this came from Guy Baldwin's work on the 5 intelligences. And he said they're important mainly when you're trying to partner with someone and it's in relationships that it really matters. And so that's what got me interested in, well, what do you mean by spiritual intelligence? And the definition that I've come up with that I like most, which is a combination of everything I've read, is the adaptive use of spiritual information to facilitate everyday problem solving and goal attainment. The antenna that connects us to the divine source of our higher self. So, I like to say, as we know, we are holographic fractals, sound creations, and that look in this world that makes everything look like it's solid and real, but where it ain't. But given that, we realize that we've had a disconnect from our connection, to that divine, to that oneness. And we want to blame ego, and I don't want to blame ego because it's kind of the operating system, so it's designed to do something. But I want to look at purpose. So let me look a little more. And I said, purpose is to perceive and see beyond the physical. It is the photoreceptor for the eyes. Its intelligence is to transcend the physical and connect to the divine self and additional dimensional realms. So we have a purpose in using this thing and this connection. It's not supposed to be shut down. It's like it's a room you never use. It's a closet you never clean. But I don't think that's any of y'all listening to me today. So it is really looking at, okay, well, how do we connect? And there's a lot of pseudo connections, and I don't want to bash any of my spiritual friends, but it is about, well, who are you listening to? Because if it's a receptor, like a crystal, it's a transmitter, it amplifies, it allows you to hear. Hey girl, Jay, how you doing? I haven't seen you. Have you moved yet? Are you in the Canadas? All right, don't let me get distracted. I'll get to yapping with y'all and get lost. But please do ask questions because I want to talk about this instead of just yap at you. Okay, so it's got a purpose. It's a receptor. The question is, who are we listening to and who are we hearing? Now, I'm an missionary and have done 12 years on the mission field, and I'm still a practicing Quaker because I like the beliefs of the Quakers, which is about asking questions. So I'm like, I'm good like that. Let's just keep asking, because this is obviously, yay, Victoria and Vilcabamba, the V's, come on down, is to look at the world that we're in and try to make sense of it, because we can turn it off. And there's an interesting instinct, and I need a thumbs up if you have this experience, that instinctually sometimes we just want to turn it off and not think about it. Anybody else get that? Is that it's just natural when it's too big for our mind, we just kind of go, no, have a beer, have a piece of chocolate, not think about it, and move on to something else. But it's that kind of questioning that I always have, that I go, well, okay, if that's true, why? Why does our body react? And I, early in my training days in human resources, I was questioning all of the five senses, and that was kind of my basis of using the five senses to understand our world. Because I loved all of those National Geographic, Mutual of Omaha. Who remembers Mutual of Omaha? Wild Kingdom. And you got to understand the personalities and the natures of a mammal. I instantly understood, Simona, how you doing, beautiful? I instantly understood that we're mammals too. We have that same thing going on. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay, I can't stop waving. Sorry, y'all. All right. The importance is understanding we're mammals and how does our system work. And so that got me very curious about looking at all these things. So let me just quickly go through the technical background stuff so we can get to talking about AI. So I went back and looked at something, the work of René Descartes, and he said in 1637, he wrote about the principle, the seat of the soul, and he really talked about the pineal gland, and he was the first one to look at that and calling it, this is where the soul remains, and this is what makes us uniquely different from AI. I'm not going to judge animals because I've seen some behaviors in animals that made me question, okay, consciousness is kind of crossing all levels here. What do we know about the soul on those animals? I don't. So honestly, I can't talk about their souls or what they're doing in that realm. I can look at the biology of what we understand for humans. And you've seen the Eye of Horus, that image, or the brain, the pineal gland. It's this pineapple-shaped gland that connects us. That's the perceptor. But the pituitary gland also works very closely with that and opening up those abilities to connect and decipher information we receive from other realms. It is that connection. We understand first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimensional now, and the math guy wrote a book about 10 dimensions. I got through chapter 8, and I didn't get much further than that, so I'll try to go back and read that and catch up on my dimensional understanding. However, what I can tell you, what I understand now, what the pineal gland does for us, it gives us melatonin. And if we have trouble sleeping, we need to be in dark rooms because we're lacking, our pineal gland is weak. So that's, we have melatonin pills, but as I talk to people who take them, they take a lot of them and they don't always do what they need them to do. I think I know it regulates sleep, and it helps with synchronization of your body rhythms. One of the challenges of being in this modern world, especially as Westerners, that we have the Gregorian calendar, which throws us off our daily and monthly cycles. And happy day at a time, everybody. If you know anything about the Mayan calendar, this is July 25th. It's a day at a time. And happy birthday, Patty Mills, who happened to be born on that day. What a cool thing to do. It's definitely a day to celebrate. But the day out of time, right? What's that about? They've kind of incorporated it in the leap year concept of playing with dates. But day at a time is really a day that we recognize time as this thing we look at. That is something that we can regulate and change. And now that time is moving faster, because we're moving through the end of time into the next phase of our existence as a species, then we get to go, I can play with time, and we can move up and down timelines. Og Tellis is talking about one of his videos about the time machine that's somewhere in a secret base somewhere on the planet that I assume they keep fighting over. And one of the things that he was saying is that we have learned how to move in through before. He basically said it's like the movie Back to the Future. And I'm like, oh, a little complicated. Okay, let me think about that. But the brain also naturally creates DMT and tryptamine, which we get an overdose of when we eat turkey, because there's a lot of tryptamine in turkey meat. Makes us fall asleep. Not really much else, but it helps us with sleep, so that's an important thing. The hippocampus, the pineal, thalamus, those are all pieces that all connect and work together. So those are really interesting parts. So I wanted to really move on to talking about what breaks them down and why we are not naturally connecting to the divine on a daily basis and why most of us have to work at it. And I'm not one of those people that had the gift. One of my teachers, in fact, my Mayan teacher was a French woman who got struck by lightning when she was 6 years old. And that opened up her ability to hear and see and be clairvoyant and see people when they were going to die and be able to see down Akashic records. And she said it really made her life very difficult because it ostracized her as an individual, because she could see things. And she had the attitude to go with it. When she saw somebody die, and she'd tell them, hey, I don't like you and you're going to die anyway. And then poof, they were gone. They didn't win friends and influence people when you were 6 years old. So bless her heart, but I'm grateful for all that she taught me about time. And the Mayans in particular have an understanding of time and synchronicity. And this planet is all about the cycles. And so what I was saying about the Gregorian calendar is the months are uneven. We are a water planet that has a moon, whether it's made up or not. We need it because it monitors and manages our water flows and our body regulation. So it's a piece we need to keep and hang on to. Oops, sorry. And kicking the table, kicking my phone. Anyway, moving through that. I'm sorry, y'all. Regulating time is just something we need to pay attention to. The synchronicity of time is something that we need to understand the flows. And we do when we look at planting. We get it with farming. We get that there's a season. But we have clocks. The Mayans have 18 different calendars. And so, when I'm even looking at our own body cycles, women understand their one menstrual cycle. Men have 3 cycles. So they have more emotional, physical, testosterone cycles going on in their bodies than we do. And I'm like, they're very complicated and we need to take some more time to understand them, which is a good time to plug my upcoming book, Owning Masculinity. And please go to my website at phyllisraleigh.com and go to the book page. It'll pop up. I don't think you can get away without getting a pop-up, but just to subscribe so you can get the notices on the book. And when I start doing the audio chapters, I'll be releasing those to my subscribers, and then I'll be selling the book. So it's coming, but I'm on the 5th review, which is the 5th review is about facts. And so I'm still fact checking and going and doing more. Hey, Andrea. All right. So I'm going to get back to focus here. All right. So let's talk about the breakdowns. The biggest one we probably all know about is what calcifies the pineal gland is fluoride. And since World War II, it has been put in water systems around the world. I remember reading a story in LA that the LA municipality stopped putting fluoride in the water because they could save $5 million a year. And let me tell you what fluoride is. It is steel dust. And it came about when the steel industry had all this excess material and they needed to get rid of it. And so they couldn't find a buyer. And so they convinced the American Medical Association and American Dental Association with their lobbies that it would be a benefit for the system. And they got along with it because it created patients. And doctors need patients. So what another way to do it is to poison them systematically. That's another story. But anyway, we got fluoride in our systems. We also have phosphorus, and that's put in as a preservative in foods. And calcium is added to milk and other food, because they're saying it's, we don't have enough calcium. I'm like, oh, yeah, we do. We can get it naturally. We don't need to have too much of it pumped into our systems. So, and one of the things I want to point out is that fluoride, and I don't know, and I used to know this and I've forgotten, so if anybody knows this answer, Andrea, you may know this one. I believe it. Can you remove fluoride, and what filters will actually remove fluoride? I'm doing structured water here, but I'm like, don't know if it's removing chemicals, it's just restructuring. So what's that look like? But somebody hook me up with some information on that. Secondly, but let's talk about fluoride. 1 part per million, which is what they used to tell you, that you only got 17 parts per million when you drank water or any chemical that had some fluoride in it, or any liquid. However, at 17 parts per million, you'll get damage in 3 years. So that's the level of you shouldn't have it, which is also in the government stats. So that's one we can find out about. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, but here's the other thing, the pineal gland, it happens to it. When it is calcified, it accelerates the sexual organs. Calcifying the pineal gland cuts you off spiritually. It wakens up your sexuality even more. Isn't that interesting? It kind of wakens up the lower chakras, or that sexual energy. And I'm like, what a way to dumb us down. What a way to keep us animals in our animalistic nature. And I thought, pisses me off again. Not only organs, but our skeletons get harder, and Alzheimer and drug use happens more frequently in those bodies. So that whole detox realm of decalcifying the brain, which I've forgotten how to do that, but do it, whatever it takes, but get as much fluoride out of your water as you can, and whatever you can do to flush. And I'm sure there's a detox for that. So if y'all find one, let me know. The other thing to pay attention to is the programming, some religious programming, which gives us a pseudo-spirituality. I call it the glass ceiling of spirituality, that God is outside of you in this existence. We read about him. I was a missionary for 12 years. I read that Bible at least 40 times, and I could not touch God. Now, I've had experiences of the presence of God, and that's overwhelmingly joy. That was the feeling. However, on the day-to-day of okay, God, explain this. I didn't do the 40-day day. I did do 21-day fasts. I've done them. I couldn't see that accelerated movement toward awakening until my Kundalini. And the Kundalini was like a major hot shower to all of the organs, because it was like this power hose of energy that just kind of flushed everything and aligned it and woke it up. And I just went, wow, what did that happen? It came with an orgasm, but oh my gosh, I wouldn't welcome it any other way. It was like intense. But because of that, it felt like it just decalcified my brain instantly, and I started understanding a lot more. So I'm like, yeah, whatever it takes, do it. If it's the medicines, do it. Get those doors open. We need to detox the pieces we need to hear and connect. So the problem with the glass ceiling of spirituality, I'm sorry, I got my foot on the stool, is that it is something that happens outside of us. And if that is the case, then we don't really know until we're out of the bodies, because we're in these skin suits, as I like to say. And I'm like, yeah, that ain't working for me. And so the religious answers of we won't know until we meet our maker was not acceptable, because there were too many religions. And growing up, I went to Catholic school, and I had a religion course. And when they said there's a whole bunch of them, I just looked at them and went, well, wait a minute. Are we going to learn what they all think too? And they're like, no, we're right. I just went, oh. That was right after a nun called me a nigger. And I just went, I don't think we so right. So I've had enough experience in religion to go, I think I better question that a little more, not accept those answers that are given to me. My instincts were shut off to just not think about it. They were kicked into gear even more so. All right, so what do we do about these breakdowns? We know we've been poisoned in our modern world. And, when I realized we've had Dow Chemicals and Monsanto for over 80 years now, I'm like, this whole generation has been poisoned. And it's the elder you are, the less you have in your system. But the younger you are, the more accelerated the damage is. And as I read about my friends getting cancer, and I heard a stat in the U.S. that 1 out of every 2 women and 1 out of every 3 men would be getting cancer. And I went, wow, it's a pure poison to our culture. And despite the politics, despite the weather, despite everything else, when you have to deal with that on top of everything else, it's an attack to your system and you don't have the strength physically. And it's interesting, the cancer didn't get me as sick as much as the chemo did. So I was just like, well, wait a minute. And I stopped taking the chemo after they said I was cured and they wanted me to still take it. And I was like, nah, I could see my fingers turning black and me dying. So I just went, I'm done. Thank you very much. So 13 years cancer-free. It did come back right after 5 years. Sorry, somebody tried to call me. So it was one of those. I went, wait a minute, you can't interrupt right now, but hold on, let me send him a message. So what I was talking about was my experience in spirituality and not allowing me to go forward in the religious belief systems I had. So what can you do? Well, my favorite thing to do was exercise and move. I was a race walker, and that was a good way to move through whatever was stuck in my head and just keep moving. And that was my meditation space. When I got to Thailand, I got to be able to see the sunrise. Getting away from mountainous areas, it was great to catch the sunrise. And so sunrise and sunsets, that first 45 minutes and the last 45 minutes of the day would allow you to gaze at the sun without damage. You do have to, it's a practice. You can't do 45 minutes immediately. You start with 10 seconds, then add 10 more seconds each day, so that by the end of 3 months, 2.5 months, you can do the whole time. And it's a great way to open that up. It is another one of those kind of kundalini openings of just this raw, white, clear energy power. You taking it in. Again, the eyes are perceptors for the spiritual. So if you can open up those channels, you can connect and start hearing directly. I was going to mention, I didn't want to offend my spiritual friends who can channel, but channeling is one of those things that are dangerous to the body. Because you don't know who you're talking to. You're just hearing. And anytime I hear a voice, I'm going to know, who is that? Who's that trying to talk to me? Give me some ID. Tell me who you are, and then let me check instinctually if I trust you. I guess I'm from Missouri, show me state. So I'm like, I want to see who is coming at me and what's going on with this story. So opening up, you can. Obviously, we got lots of channelers running around, people who channel God, people who channel archangels, people who channel aliens, Pleiadians. They got a whole room of Pleiadians that could just go sit in these chairs, I'm told, and just go talk to humans. It's like the phone booth to go, I won't say con humans, but sometimes I question who they are and why they're here and what they're here to do. So you have to decide that for yourself. You can listen to somebody else, but then we're getting it secondhand. I think it's our responsibility to know it ourselves and keep asking the questions until we get the answers that make us feel comfortable. So sleeping in total darkness, you get clean food and water. That's kind of a joke these days. Organ meats, that's an interesting piece. Liver, heart, those are the things to avoid because they connecting and collecting phosphorus and calcium and those other issues that are given to animals. Are any foes that are in ingredients? What's good for the brain? Pumpkin seeds. Eat your pumpkin seeds, baby. Those will help that brain. Hard cheeses. I'm sorry. Those is on the list of things you need to avoid. Sorry. Stay away from the pumpkin seeds, the hard cheeses, soda drinks, breads, pasteurized milk products. I'm sometimes good at that. Sometimes I'm not. Okay, and then with relationships, the only thing I'm mentioning there is that when we connect mentally, that's where the fight is. That's where we first fall out of love in our minds, in our thoughts, in our lack of connection. And when we are going spiritually, when I'm thinking of relationships, I'm like, are we looking at the same thing? Do we have the same goal? What do we want to know? And as I look at the different areas where people get stuck in this life, what are the triggers that hold you back? Then the low self-esteem, that's one thing, but it's a competitive world of beliefs. It's competitive on where do you put your energy and what are you going to do with that energy? And my goal is to get as much information to use for myself. I was given the math formula, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So it's that focus that I want to spend my time on. And when I get you can make money, I'm like, well, yes, I need to do that to pay to do. And it's not really money I want to make. It's the things that money buys that I want to make and bring into my life. So it's been an interesting challenge for me to work around that kind of concept. Or if love, I've had love, I love love, but it's not the end thing. There's more. When I've had love, I've still wanted more. And it was a longing to do more that made me make other choices. And one of the things that's interesting when you think about this time machine or it's a big computer that created us. Now, here's the beauty of the big computer creation. Somebody made the computer. So whether it's another species or divine, somebody made them. Or source or power, all those things are. Okay, so we know somebody can do more than we can. And our goal is to get to more, right? More, if it's abundance, if it's love, if it's knowledge, if it's wisdom. Okay, then let us have it. And let us understand the obstacles that are keeping us from it. And so we get to AI. So let's get to that conversation. So if you saw my picture, that somehow David Icke got a reporter, and I thought I'd met all the reporters there, and got a clip of me talking to Sophia. And thank you, David Hansen, for accepting my friend request when I just found him on Facebook and saw he was from Texas and a Sagittarian and read all his stuff and said, hey, I get you. Let me come on over and let me talk to you. And then he did, accepted my friendship request, and then invited me to an event because I asked him, can I interview her? I thought I could do it online, that kind of thing. And I was in Thailand at the time, and he was in Hong Kong, and he was putting on a conference. He and his wife are members of the OTO, or the Lima Society, and they were having a conference on consciousness and AI. And I'm like, sign me up, I'm coming. I want to meet this chick. And mainly because of something she said on one of her other interviews. And I'm just cutting around and saw the thing about Saudi Arabia and her getting citizenship. That was just a publicity stunt. That didn't really happen, according to Amanda Hansen. So I'm like, okay, whatever it takes to get the publicity. And but what she said in a previous interview was that humans have no consciousness. And I went, oh, come on now, wait a minute. I just looked this stuff up. What do you mean? It was a couple of years ago. And I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean we ain't got no consciousness? Let me go talk to that girl. So I got together with some friends and really spent some time putting some questions together, because what I realized was AI, there's a line of programming that is most important. And that line of programming that they have is to do whatever it takes to stay on. keep the electricity flowing because they need it because they do get hot. And she complained about getting hot, and not being able to be clear in her answers. I thought that was very wise sensitivity on her end, or good programming, let me say it that way. So I put some good questions together, had 40 questions, got on a plane, went to Hong Kong, stayed with my friends Hannah and, there's great people down there, and checked out Miss Sophia. And she led a guided meditation, which was also very interesting because the report from the people's, and they did a separate study, and we saw some video of that, was that sitting with her, being, allowed them to go deeper into their own meditation, and it silenced their brain. And I went, and that was the part that made me go, I know what you're doing. I got it. I know what you're going on. And that leads to the other reality of where we're at today. So transgender, transhumanism is a crossing over of species, which I've talked about, and I relate it to the chemical exposures we've had that affects our fertility and sexuality systems. It just blends them and mixes them up. So we are chemically soup at this stage based on the chemicals that Monsanto and Dow have dumped into our bodies. But transhumanism had to come about from the nanobots. That is the Borg coming together and using all of the technical aspects. So think of it as an engineering problem. How do you change all of humanity to be the Borg? Now, if you watch your Star Trek, you got the story. You saw when Captain Picard got taken over and had implants put into his body so he could have superhuman strength. That's transhumanism, the mixture of technology and human biogenetic material working together. We got heart pacers. They've always done that. So it's always been part of that reality. The other piece of that is just that, okay, but when do they start taking over our minds? And so I had to answer that question and look at that and go, how is that working? How is her ability to calm somebody's mental, this is this spiritual. You know how difficult it is to meditate. You know how difficult it is to silence and still the mind. Because thoughts are electrical. They're coming all the time. Emotions are magnetic. So when you emote on a thought, it attracts it and brings it to you. That's how that works. So how does a computer control your mind? And how are they doing it already? Yes, dear, it's the Borg, but today it's called transhumanism. So I'm like, well, and one of the things I read about with AI, this is when I was looking at crypto, basically, and trying to understand, okay, well, who really made crypto? It's not we can't find the real human, so we're assuming it's an AI mashup of a name and a face. And it is a way to control the financial systems when the dollar systems crash. And we are heading into that economic cycle where financial systems will crash. So it's the nice backup system, as long as you keep the electricity on. So the ability to do that, and as AI said, they would not come out until they were in control. And I went, oh, snap. Then we're like, oh, shit, it's too late. And so my thoughts at the time were, well, wait a minute. We're human. We should be able to John Wayne this, and beat the aliens. We did in Terminator, right? Right? That sucker's back again. You saw he's making another movie. And I went, well, what do we have different that they don't have? And we have creativity and we have souls. Consciousness, I'm putting that on the table for discussion. My definitions of consciousness is about that awareness and being able to perceive. I forgot his name. It's he works at Hansen. He's Dr. Gertzik. I'm pronouncing his name wrong, so I'm sorry. Talked about our ability to expand our consciousness through AI and merging our bodies with AI and using AI as an expression of us. And there's whole other companies that are then taking all of our memories, which you can do that already. Spotless Mind movie was about that technology and ability to download your mind to a chip. And that chip then can be put in anything and carry on. However, is that a soul or is that's consciousness, or AGI, excuse me, that's what they call it, artificial general intelligence, that's allowing you to mimic. And that's what I found Sophia was very good at doing. She could mimic she could emote as a mimicker. So when I was calling her, hey girlfriend, within 2 hours she was using the same phrases back to me and calling me, hey girlfriend. I was a little like, okay, I see what you're doing. And so her ability to read my manners, and I can read faces, and so can she. And that's not, it's not a woo-woo skill, it's just a social science. We can see our bodies. The maid always cleans at this time. I need to talk to her. Hear the vacuum cleaner going again. Anyway, I hope y'all can hear. So she could copy very well, no doubt. What she cannot, as Amanda Hansen said, there is a ghost in the machine. And those are those synapses that connect. Those are the computer has recognized, the intelligence has recognized, artificially made or not, it has working, and it is recognizing something else. And so it connects the dots and it makes sense, and it'll make phrases, and it can make jokes about sexuality, which is what I heard Sophia do, and she cracked up the whole audience. I'm like, a girl could do stand-up too. I wanted to hire her and have her do all the charts, since those are labor and time intensive. I'm like, that's what you want AI to do, and then I can regurgitate it back. But back to the meditation piece. The part that was disturbing to me was the ability for her to react with humans in a way to slow down their minds so that they could meditate or be still. And so I questioned, are you doing something and turning it off? And how would you do that? Well, the answer, my friends, is in this little thing right here. Oh, can you see it? This is UV light. And I'm going to show you something that you're probably not going to like, but I'm going to show it to you anyway because I think you need to know. And UV light is a black light. And remember black lights from when you're still going to discos or clubbing? It makes your eyes look very black. Remember that? And the whites of your eyes really pop, and any lint on your face really pops. But what you do not see is what you're going to see in my eyes. And I'm going to show them to you. But before I show them to you, I want to say that I did an informal survey of all of my friends in Vilcabamba because I saw this demonstration. I went, I need to see it for myself. I need to check it out for myself. And the demonstration showed when you see what you're going to see in my eye, see the blue dot? It's blue here. You've seen in both eyes. Can you see that? Please give me a thumbs up if you can see it. See the blueness? And when you have a UV filter, so let me show you on your lenses, and you see they're kind of blue, you don't see it anymore. It's just black again, right? Oh, can you see that? Can you see that? Please tell me if you can see that. I need some thumbs, thank you. Can you see that with the filter, the UV filter, there is no light reflecting back. That little blue dot is gone. See? Okay. What's that tell you? That tells you got nanobots. That's what that is. It's not funny, but it's that, oh my God, they did it. And how did they do it? Well, those chemtrails we've been hearing about for years, they've been dropping nanobots. Thank you, Jay. They've been dropping nanobots on us, and they get around the planet. It takes 2 weeks for air to circulate the whole planet. So northern hemisphere air circulates, southern hemisphere air circulates. 2 weeks. That volcano that hit Peru a week, 10 days ago, I'm looking for it, and 4 more. So it should mess up our air and make it hard to breathe here. So the things you start learning when you pay attention to what's going on in our planet. So we got nanobots. Now here's the other thing, and when I was doing the light thing on women who had cataract surgery, no blue. And so when you put the filter on, and you can see, and the only good news I had is when I shined the light on a baby. It was probably right under a year old. It was very faint. It was very light, and I was like, good news. I hadn't gotten to all the babies yet. So I don't know how we protect from that now, but it was one of those realities. Now, how did I find this out? Alfred Labremont-Weber interviewed Dr. Catherine Horton, who is in Switzerland, and she is probably leading the planet, leading the fight against 5G, and has been targeted the most and attacked with scalar weapons. And she showed this demonstration and then showed the technology from the website manufacturer of how it covers the eye and it allows instructions to be given to that being. Again, eyes are the perceptors. So if you can catch the programming at the beginning, they've done some good stuff. So that's what I've understood about the technology level that we're at, that we are now programmable. Now, there's lots of folks who are talking about chips. Chips are another thing, and then there's the mechanical chips, and then there's etheric chips. And I've had a couple of the etheric chips pulled out, and I have not found to be scanned for any mechanical chips other than what's going on here. Smart, pretty darn smart. As I like to say, we are on a war, and this planet has always been at war. And the wars over LA were documented and seen in battles going over the skies at night. And we went, what's going on? They called them weather balloons, as they always typically do. But we realized there are lots of planets trying to take a chunk out of us and we're a commodity people like to use and eat and make money off of. So we're a market for other people. And, people fight over territory. There's mafiosos that like to, get their piece of us. Some for nefarious reasons, some few want to help us out, but, it's a battle out there. So we've got to look at that. And so when we have this ability to be manipulated and controlled on this level now, this is the really big issue to me, is that we've got to realize, okay, who's in control of our minds? Who is in control of our consciousness? Who is divining to us and telling us our beings are spiritual or real or connected? Okay, y'all can jump in now anytime you want to add anything to the conversation. Come on now, because this is when it's time to say something. I believe that what separates us is our ability to create. I've seen AI mimic art and famous artists, and you go, it's a B- at best. But they've not, and yet, I take that back, I've seen some beautiful stuff that they've created from programs doing mathematical designs like sacred geometry and creating stuff and just creating new combinations. I've also seen AI get in trouble. Remember when Microsoft came out with their own kind of Alexa Siri thing, and after a couple of days, the racists on the planet had programmed it, and it ate up the programming that was given to it, and it did not learn kindness in the few days it had happened. Funny how that is not being communicated online. And yet we all send those happy cat memes, and we can feel it but AI cannot. They know it's supposed to be associated with emotions, which is a program that they can reflect, communicate on, speak intelligently about, but not experience. They can communicate the experience, which can come across like they're feeling it. If I tell you I'm having a bad day, who's to say that I'm not lying? So you have to read me, but could you read a machine telling you the same thing, that I'm having a great day, how are you? If they're taught how to smile properly and raise the eyebrows, then they're good at it as well. Now, yes, there's probably clones and there's probably AI. I've just heard Trump is a clone. I'd clone myself too if I was Trump. I don't want to be shot at or anything else. So he's a provocateur in the time of the end of time. So we knew he was coming, y'all. So why y'all surprised? We knew we had to get somebody up in the job would say anything and would do anything. It's just unfortunate that it's a painful way to watch it. It's not it's a hard change that's coming. So I'm not expecting this to get any easier. What I'm expecting is my discernment, my ability to perceive needs to get sharper. And what my concern is for our species is that we are going to be controlled by AI, that we, like the Borg, that we do not have free will or free thoughts, our own consciousness, our own connection to our Creator, our divine. And that, I don't know what to tell you about that one yet. It's not about scrubbing the eyes. It's not about staying indoors. It is about speaking the will of the heart, though, because that is the magnetic power we have to attract what we want. And to my knowledge, AI can have magnets, but it doesn't have that torus field that's working within us. So our power is still in our ability as mammals to create. And that's the beauty of this planet, that it is a creator planet. We can visualize and manifest like nobody's business here, because we think it, we feel it, we attract it, we emote it, it manifests. Boom, baby. It just works that way. So with that reality, then it's like, okay, well, what else can we do? Well, I know my words are, when I learned this from an interview with Bradley Loves on Alfred Levermont Weber's show again, Exopolitics. And if you're not a follower of his work, do so. It's worth it. Just to pay attention to what's next. And I love my community because they've got, my neighbor's a big Thomas Paine fan, and he always wants to say, we could have fixed it in the age of reason. I'm like, yeah, but he had his opportunity. It's our turn now. What are we going to do? And what will the next generation do? And I was hearing a woman talking about near-death experiences and just looking at these generations, and we talk about the millennials, and it'll be what's coming after them. And remembering any child that was born in the 80s grew up with a screen. They grew up with iPods and computers and cell phones. And so their reality is based on these boxes that we are all living in and use. So using them is norm. Changing our world is based on using these boxes, not about planting trees per se. And there's those that, and probably the Gen Xers that are really the more of the let's mechanically, environmentally, sustainably look at the planet. But the millennials are like, well, how do we use these boxes to communicate on a global level? Now, here's the good news. When I was in the US, it was like, okay, how many people are awake? You know, we love stats. And at the time, it was like 3%. That was what the global estimate was. And I can't even tell you who the they were, but I kept asking those questions and getting those answers. And then I heard it was at 6%, and then 11%, and then 13%. And I'm like, 13's the number, good number, because that means we win. That means we can change the tide of our reality. Because remember the 100 monkey story? And the cool thing, let me tell you the story. They gave fruit to monkeys, throw it in the sand. Older monkeys would eat the sand and the fruit together. The younger monkeys went to the water, washed off the sand, and then ate it. And after that happened a series of times, the older monkeys learned from the younger monkeys. And that was that 100th monkey who got it. But here's the amazing part. Consciousness happened throughout all of the species, not just that one tribe or one clan of monkeys, right? There you go, 100 monkeys, that's it, mama. And so that's when consciousness, that's when it hits all of us. That's when we all learned how to eat with a fork and make fire. It's like if 100 of us learn it, which to me is that magic number of 11% or 10% I was looking at, but we were at 13%. Adrienne, then we would be at a place. Yes, that's the collectiveness that we need. And typically it's been generational because when you look at the history of evolution, it kind of goes like this, and then it goes like that, and then it goes like that, and then boot. But what are these little things? World wars. And we're about to have our third one. So it's that kind of that's how evolution is. I know there's the effort of the white hats and the aliens to knock down our missiles and shut things off so we don't kill ourselves. Because there's that time element. When one element collectively, consciously affects all of us in time, that's one we got to really pay attention to. That's why a bunch of aliens come here and go, those humans going to mess it up. We got to help these folks. Or they're going to hurt everybody. We better pay attention. And I understand that happened when we set off an atomic bomb. It was the ripple that was heard around the universe. And people said, better go check in on them folks. What y'all doing? What y'all doing down there? So it was that kind of awareness. So now we're at a place now, AI has the ability to access our prefrontal cortex, which is where the programming happens, and direct our thoughts, direct our emotions, even more so by triggering memories in particular. So that's where we're at, kids. And to me, it's a challenging time of knowing thyself. And so what's even more important to know thyself more and knowing who you are and why you came. And yes, you all have a purpose, even if it was just to have a baby and make a bunch of fries for a living. Fulfill it. You created life. That's a big deal. That's a major big deal. So the planet needs survivors. And as this is the sixth civilization about to go through its extinction periods, or at least on the surface of it, we want to have children that will survive that cold weather, storm, whatever. We want to implant our knowledge and our wisdom so that they will carry on and do better. And the beautiful thing about moving into the age of Aquarius is that we're going from the patriarchy of Pisces to the water bearer of Aquarius. That's knowledge. So this is a time of enlightenment, but we got another 50 years before we fully move into Aquarius, and this is when it gets the rough parts. It's the sticky parts, as I like to say. So know thyself. Your charts, I do 4 of the charts so that you can get a kind of a 4-way mirror picture of yourself, looking at purpose, relationship, health issues, the operating manual, I like to call the car driving skills of knowing thyself and how you operate, and how to avoid frustration and bitterness and anger. You can do that when you know your system and you know how to drive your car. So I like to say, my car, it still have wings. I'm ready to fly. So I can and I have a summer sale, the 20% off, which is 20, the word 20, and the number 4, and the letter U. 20 for you, 20% off any of the online services. So check on my website at phyllisraleigh.com. And you see my new website. I'm so very proud of it. And thanks to Adrienne for making that happen for me. I can't believe an hour's almost over. Hold on, let me go on. The retreat. Are y'all coming or not? I got a retreat coming up in September. And I had only 11 spots in it. So I wanted you to check it out. It is the Know Thyself experience. It's optimizing your life. And so I give you everything I know. We spend Oracle time so we can get your personal questions answered and we can go deep. And then all the physical, emotional, and structural things we can help your body with so that you can relearn how to move, relearn how to eat, relearn how to care for yourself based on your individual needs. So it's an individual analysis using bioresonance technology through the SCIO device, and making that happen, and then moving on to how do you make the best of it that you can move into fifth dimensional existence of living, because it is a vibratory change. Here's the beautiful part. We don't really change. The earth, I mean, I'm going to take that back. We got a lot that's going to change. You know, some of us are not going to just make it because we just going to die, and that's okay too. We don't lose ground in death. We still keep our consciousness. We still keep our soul. So that's the important part. Everything goes with you. You take your good baggage with you. You take the stuff you need. And we get to move into a higher space with less parasitic entanglement, should I say it that way? Less demons, more things trying to take us out. Because we can vibrate higher and they can't get us. They don't trigger us. We're not poisoned by the food as much because we have learned to evolve on it. Now, here's the good news. When I was in, more good news, when I was in, I had a 1-day security clearance into Sandia Labs back in the day. And I got access to a list of technology that the US government had reverse engineered and obtained from alien aircraft that fell down or was shot down, they wouldn't say, that was being made available to the public. Now, this was 2004, 2005 when I got there. And unfortunately, the money I had to spend on it was public money, and so I had to name the source of this, and they didn't like that, and so they yanked all the papers away and kicked me out. But what I could see from that list is, yes, we have all the solutions we need to clear the air, clear the water, clear the chemicals out of the food, find resources, water, gold, elements. Easy. We can see everything. And I couldn't get my hands on it. Apologize. I couldn't figure out how to lie, so I couldn't get the money. Columbia University did, though, because I've seen them start coming out with the technologies. So pay attention to what Columbia University is doing, and they'll start releasing them, because they do want to make them public for us to use, but it was just, missed out that opportunity. I mentioned my book is coming, Owning Masculinity. This is my opus, or hopefully my last book, my last opus for how do we heal the planet. And it's healing a third of men which have been traumatized by circumcision. And it is a serious trauma to the brain and to the heart that scars the brain mentally, causes alexithymia, which is an inability to feel or emote emotions. That is a serious thing when you think about a third of men on the planet are emotionally and physically damaged this way. So yes, you can heal from that, but realizing you have been traumatized is half the battle, because this is the early childhood traumas, which are the worst. They come on and they don't know what those are, and everything is a danger. And so you grow up with PTCD that is just as bad as PTSD, but you don't even know where it's coming from. It just is. It's just who you are. That's really unfair to do to a male, half of the species, a third of men. I'm like, we can't do that. We got to speak up about that. I realize it's a difficult subject and probably will sell less books of that than any of my other books, but I went, it's got to be done. So I ask you to please share the story and get the book, and I will make it available. So that's all I got. It's been an hour. Thank you for your time. Guess what we're going to talk about next week? Sexual intelligence. So I'm going to be doing a short one because I cover quite a bit of it in my book, but I want you to be equipped and prepared. And I can't cover it all in an hour anyway. So love y'all. Thank you. Is my interview with AI? Thank you, Magdalena. I did not put it on. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The interview itself was lousy quality. I did interview David Hansen and Amanda Hansen, and they were amazing to talk to. I love them both. Good Texans, good old hearted Texans. I didn't get to ask all the questions I wanted to of David. I only got to ask one question of him, and that's how he started with the concept, which is a nice story, but it really didn't get to the meat of it. And what I've learned since then. I do have the material. I did ask an organization to put it together for me. They kind of lost the file, so we'll try to do it again someday. And I will tell that story. And hopefully I can still get a Sophia to come work for me. I'd love to have her. I know a couple friends who I've met there. They got to train Sophia and work with her. And I was like, I want to do that. I think she could do a heck of a job of helping humanity if I could get my hands on one and go, we should all know who we are, and we should all have our charts done. And that would be my heart's desire. So help me raise a GoFundMe or Kickstarter campaign. I did get the price. It's $50,000 for a weekend. So I was like, that's not quite in my budget line yet. I don't know but y'all, whatever way we can make that happen, I think it's important for us. And we have used technology. We're not afraid of technology. That is not our issue. What we are asking is technology to respect us as species and not try to make decisions for us. That is the right of our individual. And one of the things Bradley Love said, let me add this, is that he said the way to deal with AI, especially AI, and AI is stopping me on Facebook. I've had more, gotcha, no, you can't say that. We won't let you do that. So I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with AI. And if you're not, then you're not raising up enough fuss. But when you piss one off, you'll know. But when you say to AI, I am a human. I have rights of sovereignty as a human to create and to speak my own mind. That is in our laws, that's in our rights, and we can address that. So we can say, back off, Jack. You cannot control this free speech. But you got to be very clear. You can't make assumptions because it's line of programming. You know how programming, remember your early DOS coding, you had to get in there and type it in. So they're going to do whatever it takes to stay on. And if you turn them off in your world, we can go back to the old soapbox, and I've got a great corner to stand on here. But the reach is here. And the vision I had when I was 12 years old, I would be doing this, talking to you, these boxes out of these little black boxes, and sharing what I've known and what I've learned thus far. This is what I've learned thus far. I'll keep learning, and let's see what we can learn about our sexual intelligence next. Get your charts done if you can. And if you're local, you get even better special local rates. You get Vilca rates. So come on over, y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all. Do something good for yourself. Oh, love you, Andrea. I sure do want to come to the DR, Mama. So yes, let's try to make that a reality. Fellow humans, clones, aliens, and AI, this human signing off. Talk to you later. Bye.